29 days. That's how long the federal government's been shut down. And today, the impact finally hit America's dinner table. 42 million people, families, children, seniors, just lost access to food aid under SNAP. Yeah, you heard that right. In the richest country on earth, the grocery cart just stopped working. Here's the kicker. While Americans line up at food banks, the U.S. Senate is still arguing about whose fault it is. Republicans blame Democrats for playing politics. Democrats blame Trump for holding hunger hostage. And between them, 42 million stomachs growling. This isn't just another shutdown headline. This is a human crisis wearing a political mask. Chuck Schumer walked onto the Senate floor furious, accusing Trump of heartless neglect. His voice cracked as he said, "How can you call yourself a leader when you cut off food for kids?" Across the aisle, John Thune shrugged. Democrats created this by refusing compromise, he fired back. And just like that, the chamber became a battleground instead of a governing body. Let's rewind. This shutdown began over a budget impasse, a fight over spending caps and border allocations. But what started as a technical debate spiraled into a full-blown morality play. Trump refused to sign another continuing resolution without his demands met. Democrats refused to cave after what they called policy extortion. Result, the longest shutdown in modern U.S. history, and now its harshest consequence.
Food aid under SNAP runs on federal funding renewals. When that funding stops, so does the flow of benefits to grocery stores and families. USDA staff warned this weeks ago, but the warning was drowned out by partisan shouting. Now food pantries across the nation report a 200% surge in demand. Parents are skipping meals, school lunch debts are climbing, and every local news station is showing the same gut-punch footage. Empty shelves, long lines, crying kids. Meanwhile, in Washington, lawmakers keep repeating the same talking points. Negotiations are ongoing. Both sides are working in good faith. Translation? Nothing's happening. Inside the White House, aides described Trump as defiant, not desperate. He reportedly told staff, people will blame Democrats when they get hungry. Yeah, that's the calculation. Turn hunger into leverage. That's not leadership. That's political hostage-taking. And Democrats know it. They filed lawsuits in multiple states, arguing the administration violated due process protections for low-income families. Progressives are framing it as cruelty by design, but conservatives are doubling down, calling SNAP welfare bloat. The ideological divide is never starker or crueler. Markets are reacting too. Consumer confidence just dipped again. Analysts warn, when lower income spending collapses, local economies follow. Less grocery demand means less revenue for retailers, less tax flow for cities. The hunger ripple hits everyone, even those still eating. Here's the part that shocks even insiders. The political appetite for compromise is gone. Veteran senators say the tone feels worse than during the 2013 shutdown. Why? Because now it's personal. Trump versus Schumer isn't policy, it's vendetta. Every statement is a soundbite. Every vote is a weapon.
Behind closed doors, staffers leak frustration. One Republican aide told Politico, "We could reopen tomorrow if Trump let us." A Democratic staffer shot back, "He won't. Hunger polls well with his base as tough love." That's where we are, polling pain. But here's what no one's asking out loud. What happens when millions stop believing Washington can feed its own people? Because once trust erodes, so does legitimacy. And that's exactly where we pivot, the unseen cost. As SNAP freezes, hospitals brace for secondary fallout, malnutrition cases, child anemia, elderly dehydration. Local nonprofits, already stretched thin, are rationing donations. This isn't theory, it's happening. In Philadelphia, shelters turned people away by noon. In Dallas, police were called to control crowds outside a food bank. And in Detroit, volunteers cried on camera again. The Senate still meets every day. They still debate procedure, decorum, amendments. But the real debate isn't in the chamber. It's in grocery aisles across America, between the price of bread and the cost of pride. But here's the part nobody's talking about. What happens if this actually goes forward? If the shutdown stretches beyond a month, other benefits stop next. WIC, school meal reimbursements, housing aid.
That means hunger won't just rise, it'll spread, from food deserts to entire hungry regions. And with that comes political reckoning. Democrats are already drafting emergency relief acts. Republicans are hinting they'll block them. Why? To prove the other side owns the pain. Meanwhile, Trump tweets that the shutdown shows who's strong. Strong. Try explaining that to a mother staring at an empty fridge. Let's zoom out. Every shutdown is a test of endurance, but this one's different because it's testing the boundary between governance and cruelty. Past presidents use shutdowns as bargaining chips. This one's being used as proof of dominance. Historically, that ends badly. Nixon's stonewalling fed Watergate outrage. Clinton's standoff boosted Newt Gingrich until voters blamed the GOP for overreach. Each time, the public eventually punishes the side that looked least compassionate. And this time, the optics are brutal. Trump framed himself as the voice of forgotten Americans. Now, those same Americans can't afford groceries. It's political poetry and tragedy. The economic angle is worse than the headlines suggest. SNAP isn't just charity, it's stimulus. Every federal dollar generates up to $1.50 in local spending. Pull that away and you choke small businesses, the same ones both parties claim to protect. Food chains, truckers, farmers, everyone loses when cash stops circulating. This is how macro policy becomes micro pain. And yet the talking heads will still say both sides. No, both sides aren't equally responsible when one refuses to feed its citizens. Behind the scenes, moderate Republicans are terrified. They see polling data. Hunger stories are devastating suburban approval, but speaking out risks Trump's wrath, so they whisper instead of act. This paralysis defines modern Washington. Everyone's scared of their own voters. Meanwhile, Schumer's strategy is visibility. He's staging press conferences at food banks. He's betting images of empty shelves will break Republican resolve. Trump's betting they'll harden it. A political standoff played out through starvation. Now picture this. Day 40. SNAP offices shuttered. Food banks run dry. Senators fly home for recess. What happens when protests erupt outside grocery stores? When states start declaring public emergency just to feed people? At what point does hunger become rebellion? That's the nightmare scenario quietly haunting Washington, because once survival replaces partisanship, people stop caring about parties altogether. That's how populism mutates and how democracies crack. So where does it go from here? 3 paths, none easy. Scenario 1, Trump caves, declares victory, signs a temporary funding bill, and blames Democratic obstruction. The crisis ends, but the trust is gone. Scenario 2, Democrats break. They pass a limited aid bill without concessions, saving SNAP but conceding leverage. Scenario 3, neither blinks. The shutdown drags on, food insecurity spikes, and America watches its institutions starve alongside its citizens. Each outcome leaves scars, economic, political, moral. Because you can't unsee hunger in a nation of excess. And that brings us to the bigger question. What does this say about us? The richest democracy on earth can't agree to feed its people. The government that spends $800 billion on defense can't release $6 billion for groceries. If that isn't collapse by choice, what is? The founders feared tyranny of power. Maybe they should have feared tyranny of pride, because that's what's killing governance today. Not lack of money, not ideology, pride.
Yeah, it's dramatic, because it's real. Think about it. When this ends, and it will end, someone will step to a podium and claim victory. But behind that speech will be millions still hungry, trust still broken, faith still thin. And maybe then, voters will remember that in this shutdown, nobody won, everyone lost. So what do you think? Is this strength or sabotage? Leadership or neglect? Drop your thoughts below. Like, share, subscribe, and stay alert, because this story isn't over. It's just the beginning of America's next reckoning.